Hello, what is up? Welcome to today's live Living Mindfully Latina edition with my girl Ali. She will be on here in a few, but as you hop on, say hello, let us know where you're located, let us know where you're from. And Ali is now here. Let's see if I did this right. Oh, wait. So I know Spanish, but every time my phone is in Spanish, and there's certain things, like certain little notifications that come up, and I'm like,
Hola,
hello.
can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me
Amazing.
okay?
Yes, everything is perfect. How are you?
Perfect. I'm good. I just finished a call right now, and I know I had my quick little bathroom break, so I don't know if you want to like just kind of roll it out,
Mm,
take some
so nice. Yeah, it's been a while.
deep
I feel like
breaths.
these lives were really popular during the lockdown, which was
Mm,
really good to stay connected. But now we
yeah,
haven't met in a while. That's so
I
nice.
know. It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. I do think that life is kind of like going back to normal,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe there hasn't been that much like live support. So it is really nice that we get to do this and that we get to talk about living mindfully Latina edition, because I think with our Latin backgrounds and upbringings, whether you're like, for example, I'm first generation American, but that never changed my very much Hispanic upbringing and culture and identity. So I think for anybody tuning in that is from a South American country or is also a first generation from somewhere else, but knows and is in touch with their Latin roots, I think is still very relevant. And even for just anyone who's grown up in a household where there's been a lot of um, drama and negativity. So, but yeah, but we'll get more into it. But before we start, let everybody know who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm Ali and I'm originally from Mexico. So I was born there and I lived there for 24 years. And yeah, and when I was there, for me, part of my life, and I actually normalized when I was there, was this roller coaster, like emotional roller coaster and drama and rushing because I'm from Mexico City. So there is a lot going on in that city. So for me, that was the normal, right? So like that was part of my life, part of my belief system, that relations have super, super ups and super, super downs, a little bit of toxicity. That's part of the relations, but because why not? Because telenovelas, right?
Yeah.
That was part of my culture. Something deep down was feeling like, there should be other way of living. But yeah, that was part of my life. And then when I was 24, I moved abroad. I moved to Central Europe. So now I'm still here in Budapest, and it's been 6 years. And when
Mm,
I was here at the beginning, it was super different, the lifestyle. It was much more calm, also because I was an expat. So I spent times in solitude, in silence, parts of me that I didn't know, because I was usually with like family and friends and music and salsa and cumbia everywhere. So yeah, it was really different. And with all the years here, like after 6 years, I created more mindful routines. That's
mm,
what I do nowadays. So what I do nowadays is that I facilitate workshops and sessions, individual and group sessions, to get into mindfulness and making more like a lifestyle, not just like a one-time something, but just creating something more sustainable. And I can see
mhm.
these two sides every time I go back home, well, back to Mexico. I had like a reverse cultural shock, but now I'm integrating both worlds nowadays. But yeah, that's in a nutshell who I am
Mhm.
and what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that so much because I am too an expat, and I didn't even know what the label expat even meant until like a year after living here because I don't know, I'm just like, oh, I'm living abroad, I'm a
Mhm.
foreigner. But
Mhm.
for the ladies that are hopping on, if this is our first time also connecting, my name is Bree. I'm an empowerment coach, and I support women in pretty much just saying hello to everyone, but in pretty much creating their version of their best authentic life, because that was ultimately my goal, and that's what I did, and that's why I moved to Spain, because I wanted something different and I wanted to just fulfill a personal goal of mine, which was to travel. And that's what brought me to Spain, and a part of this expat life. And I really resonated a lot with what you said, that being an expat, it's hard to make friends, and it's hard to have a social circle. So you do spend a lot more time on your own.
Yeah.
And a lot of that time on my own was also with my boyfriend too.
Mhm.
So it's like we both, like, luckily we have a good relationship, because if not, I don't think we would still be together, because we spent a lot of time together as individuals, but then also as a couple. So I feel like this mindful living really came into play when
Mhm.
I permanently moved back.
Mhm.
And then also in the pandemic, like when
Mhm.
quarantine first started, it's like a lot of us were not left with much we can do.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it was either distract yourself with tons of
Mhm.
Netflix, or
Mhm.
kind of start doing something different.
Yeah, make friends with your thoughts and with your mind, right? Which is challenging at
Mm-hmm.
the beginning. Like the first when I moved here like 6 years ago, I spent so like long time by myself, and I was like, what's this voice? Like it wouldn't stop. And I think I never spent that much time by myself and back on the time. And I realized that what's our first reaction is to grab a podcast or to grab music and just to like distract ourselves, because at the beginning it's uncomfortable when we haven't learned to be with ourselves in silence and stillness. But then it just becomes like something like a superpower, because that if you can be with yourself, then you become like more mindfully and more conscious of who are you hanging out with and with your relations, right? Like anyone who would be around you, then it's a more conscious decision of who you are, and you are not with someone just because you feel lonely or alone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think that's super, super important. Like what you said, that you're not just someone because like you're lonely or you want that distraction. You're with
Mm-hmm.
that person, or you're having that conversation because it's something that is like important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get like further deep into that, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that is a really like a big thing I want to highlight, I want to ask you, what is mindfulness? For everybody hopping
Mm-hmm.
on, that they're just like mindfulness, unfortunately, I feel like it's turned into like a trendy word,
Yeah.
just like, doing things with ease, or self
Yeah.
development, like, all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
how would you define
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, just being mindful?
Yeah, so my definition is a state. It's being aware, it's being in presence, and it's being not judgmental with yourself and with others. So being in a state of
Mhm.
presence, noticing what's going on in your body, noticing what's going on your thoughts. And for me, I see it like in increments of 10 seconds, like it only exists these 10 seconds that we are together. And then we create other 10, another 10. And when we see life like that, it just becomes easier, or at least for me, like we are not living in the future or in the past, and it's all about presence. It's also about an attitude of acceptance and self-compassion in life, I would say that. So it has to do a lot with consciousness and with awareness. And mindfulness, it comes from Buddhism, so from Zen Buddhism, but this is like a secular practice. So that's why I always say in my workshop, like, this is not a sect, this is not religious. So we
Yeah.
even, I have a lot of people from different countries coming to the workshops here in Budapest, and they can do it together with their religion. So even if they are Muslims or
Mhm.
Catholics, they can also practice, and we meditate together. And it's really beautiful to see this coming in together
Mhm.
independently of their religion. So it's more like an attitude and a state. And I like to see it also in a way of practicing with formal and informal ways. And the formal practice, it's always meditation. But we can also practice it informally. It's not only about just like sitting on our mat, but we can practice it every time like we are having a tough moment, or like when we are queuing, when we are starting to be impatient. It's when those are the opportunities when we can actually start practicing it, right? So it's a
Mm.
whole set of attitude and yeah, I would say that that's my definition. I don't know what,
And I like
how do you
that.
live or how do you embody mindfulness in your case?
Yeah, I think that's it's a great question, and I feel like for me it's a combination of using self-awareness too. So in the sense of if I'm having a conversation, or like even the example you gave
Mm-hmm.
about when you're online and you're starting to get impatient. Like as soon as I notice a situation that is triggering me, whether I'm getting impatient or frustrated or angry,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the emotion is, that's not like an authentic reflection of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
um I feel like that is my first step in being mindful, is just like noticing what I'm feeling, but then also
Yeah,
having the self-awareness to know that this is just a temporary experience. Like I
exactly.
don't have to freak out, or I don't have to
Yeah.
feel shame for feeling this emotion about a particular situation or conversation. And then knowing how I can move through that. And especially when you're in a public setting, you can't, really stop and
Mm-hmm.
like formally meditate like you were explaining, or I do a lot of like somatic work, so that's like just using my body. I can't really like break down and
Mm-hmm.
start just dancing intuitively and moving my body.
Mm-hmm.
So it really
Mm-hmm.
comes back to acknowledging it and thinking about what can I do in this moment, especially in this public setting, that I feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable doing, even if people are around me. Even just breathing, just coming back to the
Yeah.
breath and just breathing
Yeah.
into where the emotion is in my body. And then also letting my body know that I'm feeling this emotion right now, but when I get home or tomorrow or whenever the case may be, I can come back to this
Exactly.
experience
Exactly.
to relive it, but in a way that I'm not making myself feel more anger or frustration, but
Yeah.
rather give it that space to like
Exactly.
breathe.
Exactly.
Because I feel
I,
like,
I love
but,
the
you know,
concept of space.
mm,
It's like the space between a situation and how you react. And when we create this space or when we train, it just gives us a lot of more emotional intelligence, emotional literacy, and just space for self-compassion and not to over-identify with that. Like when I talk to my students that they are like, oh yeah, but then I'm a person who's always angry. I'm an angry person. It's like you're not an angry person or you're not a sad person. You had a moment of sadness. So
mm,
it kind of helps you to take some distance from all these feelings and all these that it's probably super confusing at the moment, and not to identify with it, because then our mind starts to create more of that and it just becomes worse. So all
mm-hmm.
the stories around it is what creates actually the suffering. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. The detaching
Mm-hmm.
of ourselves with that emotion. I feel like when
Mm-hmm.
you do detach,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have that mindfulness about what is going on, then you can see that, like, you can just see clearer. You can see how you want to handle the situation in a different way, and
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
be explosive or going back to
Mm-hmm.
just our upbringing and just all the drama and the
Yeah.
telenovela and all of that we kind of normalized
Exactly.
growing up. We can kind of say, wait, I can actually do something different. I don't have to do or I don't have to react in the ways that's familiar from what
Definitely.
I've seen.
And
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot, like even nowadays on TikTok, and I'm not sure if that's only humor, but I'm a little bit concerned that that's a reality, that these stay toxic hashtags and all these memes and stuff. I think that's also happening in English, but also in Spanish, because I have both on my TikTok. Like TikTok
Yeah,
algorithm, it's like super amazing, and it shows me
bilingual.
both. They already know everything about me, like
Yeah.
bilingual, that I have a European boyfriend, that I'm Latina, everything. But they show a lot about how Latinas interact with Europeans and that we create drama and stuff like that. And it's fun. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you have the level of awareness that that's just a joke and that's not something that you create, right? Because there is also this misconception that if there is not something going on in the relation, it's boring. If there is no drama, then it's boring. You have a flat relation. I think there are two separate things. And we have even these jokes. I don't know if you have heard that too, but like it's like, oh, this guy, when like your boyfriend seems to be like super calm and chill, it's like, oh, he looks so calm, let's create some drama to, you know,
Mm,
spice the relation up. And if you are aware of it and you take it as a joke, then that's completely fine. But when we integrate that into our relation, and then it makes it actually toxic relation. And that's there's nothing like we should separate these concepts of a boring relation and a healthy relation, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it's so true. The thought that was coming to my mind, because my mom's from Colombia, my dad's from Ecuador,
Mhm.
and my mom, she would always say, ah, it's because I'm Colombian. It's like,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is why I have this extra sass. And in my head, I'm just like, Mom, that's not why. Like, that's not the like, this isn't your identity. It's just where you were born. It's our culture. Um, we have specific traditions, but that's it. Like, this extra sass isn't because of where we're born, or the stereo. Like, I just feel like it's feeding into a
yeah.
stereotype.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And I even remember, I don't know if you have experienced that, but for us was so common. Like when I was on my early 20s, I would go out with friends and there was something always going on when we would like drink or something, like some couple were fighting and then they would like leave the car when it was still like moving, or you know, shout or like leave the party and stuff. And that
Mm,
was so normal to me that when I moved here, and I was telling these stories or anecdotes to my European friends, they were like, really? Like, did you do that? And because I did
yeah,
once that. So like I'm like, oh my God, then I was a toxic. So yeah, but no, it's good to take some distance and actually to see it from
mm,
other perspective, right?
yeah.
And
No, I definitely think I feel like, and that's why I'm grateful for have following my instinct to just travel. Like, I mean, necessarily my dream in the beginning wasn't to live here permanently. It was supposed to
mm-hmm.
be something temporarily, but just from leaving my surroundings and just what I was familiar with, I can see kind of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
and I can see just how much toxicity was in my life, not only from the past relationship that I was in and all the toxicness within that relationship, which I feel like I even endured for a longer period of time, because there's almost this sense when you grow up with such toxicity in relationships, and feeling like watching your parents deal with the drama, deal with kind of like these just over the top behaviors that are kind of downplaying, that are disrespectful. That's what I want to say, that are
Yeah.
disrespectful to you. You then think, I'm not going to do that. So what I'm
Yeah.
going to do is that I'm going to tolerate it, because I can change it. I can change the person by
Mm-hmm.
tolerating them. So then they can behave differently, and then I can have a
Mm-hmm.
different situation, a different
Mm-hmm.
relationship. But then at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you're still in the same place. You're still
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
mistreated, you're still being spoken to poorly, like
Mm-hmm.
you're still like favoring it almost
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
staying in the relationship and thinking that you can change the person
Yeah.
when you can't. And I think in a lot of novelas, like when I came home from school, my grandpa did not learn that much English. Like, so he was just in novela mode all day. But once he retired, so I would come home from school and I was watching like Rebelde, and I was watching all these like
Yeah.
novelas,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was just so into it. And there was just so much drama of like, and there was always the person who wanted to like be the hero almost, and
Mm-hmm.
to that would get themselves into like toxic situations to try to save a person. So I think you start to, well, I
Exactly.
guess I started interpreting that as in like, yeah, I can save people, I can help people. And I mean, that's not why I studied psychology and became a therapist, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think it played out in these toxic
Mm-hmm.
relationships that it's like, I can save the person and I can help them.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's super insightful. And not only the telenovelas, but also the songs. The other day I was thinking about that I used to start my mornings with Luis Miguel, or like we have a lot of these romantic singers, and all the songs are
Mm,
about I love you, I cheated on you, please forgive me, I'm in love with someone else. And like all of them are the same. And I was like listening, and I was like, maybe I will start my mornings maybe with other type of music. And now, yeah, now I'm more aware, I'm more conscious about what I'm listening, because sometimes I catch myself that I'm listening those. I love mariachi and everything, right?
mm,
But sometimes it's like, okay, it gets too emotional, and there is nothing wrong with being in contact with our emotions, but the lyrics can have an effect on our body. So I don't listen to them like every day. Now I'm more like having like easier and slower mornings, and not because literally my mornings used to start with reggaeton or with
yeah.
like something really heavy, right? And now it's like, okay, I'm not more like on a chill side. That some of my friends that probably we are not that close anymore would describe me as boring already, because
Mm,
yeah, I kind of calm down, I'm more balanced, I'm having a healthy relation and stuff. So
mm-hmm.
I'm probably more boring, but I like this lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and I
So
think it's you prioritizing your peace,
yeah.
like your sanity, and I think that's just the change. That's just what happens. That it's like the people who call us boring haven't experienced what it's like to have that inner peace. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not just because you go out hiking, but to experience genuine inner peace, like in your
Mm-hmm.
body where you're not feeling all this
Mm-hmm.
tension, in your mind where you're not overthinking.
Yeah.
So that's how I see what you described about these labels of no, you're just boring now.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, before I was part of that, right? Like creating my own drama, and even like with the guys I would date and whatever. And there is nothing wrong with that. I think we all have all this period of discovery, of love, and stories every weekend, right? With new
Mm,
people and stuff. As long as we're conscious about who are we spending our energy with, and sometimes we are not very aligned or coherent with like, oh, I want to find the love of my life, yeah, but I am hanging out with people who are like emotionally unavailable, or whatever
mm,
the concept is. It's like, okay, if you want to go and like experience and have fun, go with, but with this level of awareness and conscious that probably it's not the place that you will find true love. I mean, maybe universe surprises us, right? But just to have this level of consciousness that, okay, this is fun, this is like something more real. And it's when I started, I guess, to stop some relations and to create new relations like friendships, because
mm,
my older friendships were more on that, and they some of them got stuck on that lifestyle. And it's when they literally told me like I started to be boring for them, and it was really painful at the time. But it made space for having like other types of friendships, and today I have like a circle that it's much more aligned with what I am today. And it's
mm,
I'm really grateful for that, creating that space. But at the moment it was really really painful for me to leave that, but it was needed. So that's also kind of
mm.
the price we pay, right, for this new lifestyle. It's more times by yourself, or more. It implies basically leaving some people behind who are not aligned anymore to this new lifestyle that we are creating, right?
Definitely. And I feel like even as you do deepen your mindfulness practices, and you do start your self-discovery, even as you leave these past people behind who aren't aligned with you and you enter these new relationships, I feel like it doesn't change your upbringing. So it's like you're entering new relationships as well, especially like romantic ones. My boyfriend's from England. all
Oh.
the
Mm.
all the men that I have dated in the past, they've all been Hispanic men. So there's always been this extraness and jealousy and manipulation and
Mm-hmm.
betrayal, like a novela in
Mm-hmm.
itself. And dating my boyfriend has been a different experience to
Mm-hmm.
when, like, I remember when we first moved in together, And I was like, oh, do you want me to prepare lunch for you, and to do all this stuff? And he was like, I'm an adult. He's like, I can do things myself. And I was like, yes, you can. You're
Yeah,
right. You can.
yeah,
And it was just from this like programming of my upbringing where it's like, no, you have to cater to your
mm-hmm,
men, you
mm-hmm,
have to be very attentive,
mm-hmm,
like all this stuff, all these like rules that I feel like Hispanic women, well, girls
mm-hmm,
are raised to believe.
mm-hmm.
So as self-aware as I am, there were still so many aspects of myself and just conditioning that I had to not only undo but understand.
Yeah,
Like understand why I was acting in a certain way, or um or believing something. Even the other day, um my boyfriend left the house,
mm-hmm,
and like I was up here like in my space here, and he didn't tell me anything. And I called him, he didn't pick up. I sent him a text message,
mm-hmm,
nothing.
mm-hmm,
And I was just like, so I said to him, I was like, what is this shady behavior? What are you up to? And then when he got back, he was like, I was cleaning the car. And he was just like, he's like, what's wrong with you? He's like being like coming across like toxic. And I was like, yeah, I was like, you're right. I've never really questioned him or doubted him
mm-hmm.
before in that way. And it
Yeah,
just shows that it's like no matter how much inner work you do or self-awareness you have, these little moments still kind of come
yeah,
out, and just
yeah.
kind of noticing them.
Wow,
I
thank you for
see, I
sharing
see
it.
Patricia.
Oh yeah,
Hello.
Patricia,
She
that's her
says, my
husband.
husband is English too. I'm Brazilian. It's such a different experience too. Almost like I had to completely learn what men could be.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, all over
mm-hmm,
again.
mm-hmm.
It's so true. It's it's just so funny at the same time because it is different, and it does make you see that relationships can be different, not just what we've known them to
Completely,
be. Oh wait, Allie, you were
definitely. For
reloading.
yeah, am I back? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
it's
you're
I
back,
don't
you're
know
back.
my internet. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, yeah, and I wanted to share a cultural shock I had when I came here. It's not related to relations, but it's related to mindfulness. And
Mm,
I was super I got super uncomfortable with the silences. So when I was
mm,
here, I live in Hungary, Budapest, and I've been always working with Hungarians or with Germans or with Swiss people. And for them, it's quite common to have silences. It's quite normal. Like if you join a call or if you meet someone in the elevator, even if you more or less know them, they would say like good morning, and that's it. Probably some of them are more extrovert, but in general, they wouldn't start like a huge conversation. And I used to take it really personal, like they don't
mhm,
like me, why they aren't talking. This feels so awkward. And then I started to like get to know them better and get to know myself better, right? And then I discovered like what's the need of filling all the silences, like just let some of them be. And the same happens to Latino culture, that we always want to be talking, right? Or talking, or with the voice notes, that's also super Latino, always with the voice notes, or like listening something, or being like in crowds, right? And
mm,
here it was like, oh, okay, they give themselves space to not talk. They give themselves space just to be by themselves, and more privacy and more solitude, and that's okay too. And for me, I've been always also taught that you gotta be like, sympathetic and talk and start, because no one likes girls who are, like just silent and
mm,
like, like introverted. And it's like, okay, then I saw other ways of living, and I felt like, okay, this is all the panorama, this is all the portfolio. Choose what best fits for you. Like there are no right and wrongs. And just finding out that, I was like, oh wow, so all this time I had the chance to like not to talk if I didn't want. I don't have to like have a comment on every conversation or in every meeting, right? So like
mm,
it was just like so super. I was healing when I was learning about these new lifestyles. And even when I go back home to Mexico, I'm more myself every time. I'm more authentic, and it just feels so good. Which it's a little bit strange for them because they are used to like talking a lot and stuff like that. Normally, I wouldn't say anything about me that I'm living abroad or whatever, but my mom is like the always who is like introducing myself to everyone. Then they are
Yeah.
excited, and then I can start the conversation. But before, I had this urge to be like an extrovert, like most Latinos, like many Latinos are really extroverted. And when I
Mm,
moved here, I realized that they are more like I think more, I wouldn't say introvert, but they are more like in the middle, right? So it's super interesting too to see other ways of behaving and just to choose like what's best for you. So that's I don't know if you had any cultural shock at the beginning or reversed cultural shock.
that's a good question. I mean, I really like the experience that you had, that like coming to Europe just made you see that you can be more in stillness, because I think it is true.
Yeah.
And even my mom, she just left yesterday. She was visiting, and
Oh.
it was so funny. There was like moments of silence where I was fine. I was like, just
Mm-hmm,
taking it
mm-hmm,
all in,
mm-hmm.
and she would start saying something, and I just kind of noticed that, and I was like, I was like, I wonder if maybe before I would also do the same, kind of fill those
Mm-hmm,
moments of silence by
mm-hmm,
saying something. I think the only cultural, well, yeah, because also I'm from New York, so I do have my Latin background, but I mean, growing up in New York, everything is like competitive, competition. Everything is like just go, go, go. And everything was
mm-hmm.
also about your results.
Yeah.
Like, how much education can you get? What age can you be when you buy your first apartment or house? Like
Mm-hmm.
everything was almost to show
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
what success
Yeah.
could look like, and
Yeah.
especially you living out this American dream. Like maybe your
Yeah.
parents weren't able to, so you had the pressure
Yeah.
of doing so. And I think coming to Spain just introduced me to a different world where,
Mm-hmm.
and even also meeting my boyfriend's family, like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
the, oh, like how are you, what do you do for work, like that was always the start of a conversation of like, what do you do for
Yeah.
work, what did you study, are you in
Mm-hmm.
school, are
Mm-hmm.
you working.
Yeah.
And even when I met my boyfriend's family, like they didn't ask me anything about that, and I was like, this is so strange. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
actually had like just like a normal conversation. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that was different. But how nice was that to not feel this
Mm-hmm.
pressure of almost, I don't know, showing your worthiness to say, yes,
Yeah.
I went to school and I did this and I'm
Exactly.
working at this now. So that was one thing
Wow.
for the English culture. But I think coming to Spain, it was more about this balance
Mm-hmm.
of, yes, working hard, but then also at lunchtime having a glass of wine, and just kind of also taking this like slower pace to life. There's
Mm-hmm.
like always a festival. There's always something being
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
celebrated. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's this constant reminder of, yes, you may be busy and you may be working hard, but here, like they know how to enjoy life. I feel like they know how
Exactly.
to take a
Exactly.
step back and just and put themselves first. It's not
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
results so much of the job that they may have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I guess just my perspective on how the type of conversations you have, and
Definitely.
the perspective around success, I guess, were the
Definitely.
big
And
things
it's
that
more
I think.
related to what you have, what you possess, because I mean, Mexico is really similar than the States in a way of like bigger, better, a bigger car, a bigger house, more money. And it's endless, right? I can see it with my friends. They are amazing people and they love big things. Like,
Mm,
oh, just like, and they say like, small penthouse, 100 square meters. And in Europe, it's like, I'm quite happy with 50 square meters. Or, like
mm,
a car, like, oh, it's old. How old is it? 5 years old. It's like, it's new, no? So like the
yeah.
perception, it's really different. Or like having a car to go everywhere. And here it's
Mm,
more like, I don't even need a car. Like I walk a lot. I spend more time in the nature. I bike when the weather is nice. So it's a little bit different, and it gives me more space to be in contact with the nature and in contact with myself, right? Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm just walking and I send voice notes to myself. I've done that lately, and I really enjoy it. It's a kind of a journaling, but I'm doing it while I'm walking, and it feels so good. Like or I record myself and with reflections or something like that, and it's just so nice instead of like sitting in the traffic and driving as I used to do that in Mexico. So those are also my mindful moments that I can have it in here. I know it also has to do a lot with adulting, and I know that the life that I was living in Mexico, I was younger. So that also has to do with, but I think culture also has a big impact on it. I don't know if I would have been through all this journey there, but I'm really grateful for having the opportunity to take some distance because I had the chance to challenge a lot of belief systems and a lot of structures that were I was just taking for as they were. And when you
Mm-hmm.
take some distance, then you have the chance to really challenge them and to know what's the lifestyle you want to create for yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. Um, just like I said in the beginning of the live, I'm an expat as well, and just yeah, I didn't think I would live here. Honestly, it was just supposed to be an eight
Mm-hmm.
month program. I was supposed to right. There's the expectation. I was supposed
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
move back to New York, get licensed in my degree, and you know completely
Mm-hmm.
changed just
Mm-hmm.
being in a
Mm-hmm.
new environment. But I also really love the practice that you shared about when you are going on a walk, just creating a little voice note of what your
Mm-hmm.
reflection is. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
go on a walk as well, it's always in my mind. And I'm
Mhm,
reflecting, but just in my mind,
mhm,
or I'm holding
mhm,
gratitude, but it's still like in my mind and a little bit in my body. But I also like
mhm,
incorporating the sound into that
mhm,
experience of you
mhm.
feeling and you thinking, but then using the voice too.
Yeah, yeah. That's so nice. Yeah,
Is there
and
any?
I think anyone who will rewatch this one, Latinas or no, if they don't have to go that far away, right? To start living mindfully. I think it's just a matter of like creating some times and some space and routines in our day to practice that and to be with ourselves. I think it has to do a lot with being with yourself, being in silence, in stillness, and also other ways of practicing is just being a better listener, right? Like probably talking less, listening more, and being more aware of what's going on in within you, inside of you, like making friends with
Mm,
your thoughts and your emotions. And there is nothing wrong with it. Like of course we say that like our blood is boiling sometimes when we get pissed off at something. There's
mm-hmm,
nothing wrong with that. Of course we're humans, right? It's not about toxic positivity of just having perfect emotions and positive emotions, but it's how we react to that and how we what's our relation with those emotions and with those thoughts.
mm-hmm,
So I think it's accessible to anyone who wants to start practicing mindfulness, and it doesn't have to take like so many hours. I know we love it, and that's our full time job. So we do it like 24 hours, and we are so happy. But for anyone else, like they can just start with a couple of minutes a day, and that's all. Yeah.
mm-hmm. And I really like that you gave some tips as well, because that's what I was thinking of, like, how can
Mm-hmm.
we or what is some tips that we can give to someone who wants to live more mindfully, or who's living
Mm-hmm.
in these very just busy go 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 places where the expectation's very high, where you know whether it be in a city, well, I feel like most likely
Yeah.
is in a city, but
Yeah.
whether in a city you've had a similar upbringing just with the Hispanic background with these certain expectations, just thinking about your upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
what and even into like adulthood, what is suggestions that you could make for someone who wants to be a little bit more mindfully and who wants to make that change, but
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to move, because not everybody has to move and live in another country to,
Yeah.
you know,
No, not
create.
really. Not really.
Hmm.
And I always share that on the workshops. Like, we, unfortunately, we are not monks and we are not living in a monastery. So we have busy lives, busy minds. We are city rats, most of us.
Mm.
So, and for that, I would suggest having space and giving ourselves time to practice meditation at least 5 minutes per day. But having, for instance, a little space at home and even a little space in the workplace. When I used to work in
Mm.
corporate, I would go to we had this room that it's called the spiritual and religion room. So
Okay.
I would go there and I would just tell my colleagues, like, I'm coming in 10 or 15 minutes. To some of them, I would tell I'm going to meditate. To some of them was super strange. But I
Mm.
actually posted this on LinkedIn, and it had some reactions because I told them, like, I hope that one day it will be as normal to say, like, I'm going, just wait, I'm 10 minutes, I'm going to meditate, as normal as we say, I'm going for a smoke. It's so normal to say, I'm going
Mm.
for a smoke. And then,
Yeah.
but if you say, I'm going to meditate, it's like, oh, that's so woo woo, that's so strange. It's like, that's healthier. But I hope that
Hmm.
one day that can happen. But yeah, finding spaces. So like I think I feel it at home having your little pillow. It's just so cute to have your little corner, or like anywhere you go. If you have to go to the office, maybe finding a room for that, that would be amazing if the
Mm.
company can provide that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's as little as 5 minutes, and actually not judging yourself, because when we are starting, we have a lot of mental clutter and a lot of thoughts.
Mm.
And I think self-compassion, that's the only way that we can keep on, like, on our practice. Because sometimes or often I listen like, oh, I suck at meditating. It's like, no, you don't suck. Like,
Mm.
you never suck. Like, you did the job. Like, thoughts came and then you brought back the attention to your body. That is it. Like, that's meditating. It's not about like really not thinking about anything. That's a misconception. So only by
Yeah.
doing that you're already practicing. So that's a win
Mm.
already. Not being so so rigid with ourselves and so demanding. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think when we do judge ourselves in those moments where we are meditating and we're filled with so much thought, even just realizing that it's like all that judgment is just coming from a place of expectation that you
yeah,
adopted from somewhere, from
yeah,
whether it be social media, that you saw a
exactly,
post on meditating or an article, or a monk, you know, someone with tons, years of experience, you know, like this is what they study. And
exactly.
they're committed to. So yeah, like once again, even detaching yourself from that thought, like we
Yeah,
were talking about before, like detaching yourself and realizing that it's just you're judging yourself over something that you've been conditioned to believe.
exactly.
um but like you said, sitting there with all those thoughts is completely right,
Yeah,
and it's completely okay.
yeah,
And I really liked what you said about having a place at home
yeah.
to connect with yourself, like that sacred space, and then also having a
Mm-hmm.
place at work, even if it's not, like, even if there's not a designated place,
Mm-hmm.
but just creating that
Mm-hmm.
space for you at work. Because I feel like when you are starting with the inner work and you're focused on self development and just like rediscovering yourself, sometimes we think, okay, I journaled for today, so I'm done. Like, you know, I did the work, and that's great. But I also think there needs to be a more kind of realistic conversation that you may have journaled, but something is going to happen at lunchtime, maybe, or at the end of the day, that's going to trigger you.
Exactly,
And just knowing how to support yourself in all those moments throughout the
exactly.
day when you do feel kind of misaligned and just
Yeah,
off course.
yeah,
um, and just kind of integrating, like you said, the 5 minute practices, like a little
yeah.
5 minute practices throughout the day
Mm,
to keep you balanced and not
yeah,
easily triggered by others.
exactly. Yeah, and I love that you mentioned journaling. I mean, there are so many tools, and I think journal is another one for getting more familiar with our emotions and getting more
Mm.
clarity on what we are feeling at that moment. So we can try with different tools. So it doesn't have to be only one. and the ones that we like the most, because some people prefer writing, some people don't really like it at all, they prefer to meditate, or they prefer the voice note option too, so, or drawing or whatever, so like it's
Mm,
your choice. And also I don't really like these rules, like these books that tell you like you should do this and that. I mean, I love Robin Sharma, but in a way like this 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes of like being super rigid with your spiritual practice. It's like, no, I mean, it's your spiritual practice that should be super flexible and super kind, because then we
mm,
feel guilty because we didn't meditate more than 20 minutes. Well, we could only meditate 5, and then it's like the meditation will bring you more joy and calm, not feeling guilty for not
mm-hmm,
lasting 20 minutes. So if that's bringing that to you, then probably you might be more you should try to be more flexible with yourself, right?
mm-hmm. I agree, and it even reminds me of one of the four agreements, that it was like you decide what you consume, or like what you want to
Mm-hmm.
adopt. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when we are like, even people who are tuning in like right now, and if you're listening to podcasts, like however you're expanding your mind and you're learning more about yourself, you don't have to follow what we're saying, what you're reading, what you
Yeah,
are listening to. You don't have to follow that, because it
yeah,
really comes down to personalizing your inner work and deciding
exactly.
like, oh, I really liked that tip that Ali
Yeah.
gave about the voice
Mm-hmm.
note, so yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
But maybe no, I don't really want to journal, or whatever. Or like just really being conscious of not what everyone says is the right
exactly,
way. The right
exactly,
way is what you decide to be the right way
definitely.
for you. So
Yeah,
I wanted to
yeah, I love it.
mention
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's so
Yeah.
nice. Oh, no, thank you for this space. I always like talking to you. It's so nice.
Yes, I can't remember what we spoke about ages ago. It
I think
feels
it
like
was
such
the beginning of this year, no? When we talked about goal, like flexible goal setting or something like that. Probably
I don't know.
intuitive. Was it last year?
I think it was even because in October I just made a year of moving into this new apartment. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember we spoke in my old apartment.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was almost, I don't even want to say that it's been 2 years, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
it has been 2 years since the last live, which is really crazy to think about, and just kind of reinforces this idea that time goes by very quickly. Um, so for everybody on here, because time goes by so quickly, just live the life that you want to live. You can create your own peace of mind, as we've been speaking about, creating more mindfulness in your life. You have that ability to do so. So why not start tapping into it and figuring out how it looks like for you? Because life just goes by way too fast for you to be
Mm-hmm.
in the same place. Not even in the same place. Who cares if you're at the same job? But to be in the same place emotionally, mentally, and just like internally next
Mm-hmm.
year, like that's not what we're here to be. We're all placed in this earth to really connect with our mission, and our mission is going to look like different for all of us. And living our life authentically and experiencing life for all the goodness that it has. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I
I
love
wanted
it. Thank you,
to
Bree.
share. You welcome. Thank you,
Ne-
Ali. This was awesome. So much fun.
Mhm.
Let us know in the comments what are some of your takeaways, what you think you're going to try after this conversation, and maybe what are some of the tips that you decide to take, you decide to use. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and saying hello. Well, you know, hopping on. And thank you, Ali, for
Thank you,
all
my
your wisdom
dear.
and your thoughts.
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Send
You
you
too.
besos.
Yeah.
Adios. Besos, besos.
Bye. Let's see how I feel like Instagram has had some changes that I do as I figure out. Let's see. I would like to save this live because this live has been just fantastic. I want to see how I can do that though. I don't know. Let's hope for the best here. But peace out, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Watch the replay. And if you are watching the replay, well, once you do watch the replay, just give us a little hashtag replay in the comments so then Ali and I can know who was tuning in, who was taking in the goodness of what we were speaking about how to live more mindfully, whether you're living in a city, whether you've experienced just a lot of toxicity and drama in your upbringing. You can create this peace, you can cultivate this inner peace that you see other people have, right? You can have that as well. So until the next live.